Hi everyone, Radhe Radhe. So today we're doing chapter 3, verse 36. And this is apparently one of those really important verses. There are many really important verses in chapter 3 or in the entire Bhagavad Gita. But this is one of those things where this is one of the most juicy parts of chapter 3, this one and all the verses that follow, because here Arjun is speaking again and Arjun is asking a very, very relevant question. And then Bhagwan Shri Krishna answers them in the next 7 or 8 verses, which then ends. There are 43 verses in chapter 3, so then chapter 3 ends after 43 verses. But after this question of Arjun's, which Bhagwan Shri Krishna answers. So let's sing the verse and let's translate it. So this is a question that follows the previous verse. The previous verse was, yeah, I'll I'll read it out. I'll whatever. Okay, so Arjuna Vacha अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पूरुषः अनिच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय बलादेव नियोजितः. Okay, so the translation is, Arjun said, O descendant of Vrishni, which is Krishna, by what is one impelled to sinful activities, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? So, such a relevant question, right? Like, what makes us feel so compelled to do sinful activities, even though we know that this is sinful, even though we know that something is bad for us, we're still doing it. Even if we know, like if an addict knows that their alcohol is bad for them, they're still drinking. Like that's a very extreme example, but in even the little things, we know that something is bad for us and we're still doing it. So what is it that forces it? What is it that compels us, impels us to do these kinds of things? So let me translate verse by verse. Arjuna Vacha, Arjun speaks. Atha kena prayuktoyam, then by what? Prayukta, impelled one. So by what is one impelled? Then by what is one impelled? Papam jarati purusha, sins does a man. So by what does a man, or what does one get impelled to? Okay, so by what is one impelled to sinful acts? Okay, that's how he's translated, which makes sense. By what is one, or is a man, impelled by sinful acts? Why does a man do sins? Why does a man do sins? Right? What impels a man to do sins? Anichannapi Varshneya. Varshneya is the descendant of Vrishni, which is the name of Krishna. So, O Krishna, by what is one impelled? Anichannapi, without desiring, even though we don't want to do it. Why what impels us? Bala Deva Niyojitaha, by force, as if engaged, as if we're engaged by force. So, O Krishna, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, even though we don't desire to, even though we don't want to, as if engaged by force? So here he gives the example of like the alcohol, and Srila Prabhupada here is also saying the same thing, that when he's in contact of material nature. So yeah, a living entity is spiritually pure and free from all material contaminations. By nature, he's not subject to the sins of the material world, but when he's in contact with material nature, he acts in many sinful ways, even against a will. So Arjun is that's why asking that question. And okay, so Swami Mukundanand's thing, I love the whole thing so much. I'm going to read out the whole thing. So Arjun, the translation is, Arjun asked, why is a person impelled to commit sinful acts even unwillingly, as if by force, or descendant of Vrishni or Krishna? So Sri Krishna, okay, so this is where the previous verse, he ties it into the previous verse, and he says that one should not come under the influence of attraction and aversion. So Arjun wishes to lead a divine life like this, and he finds it difficult to implement. So he asks a very realistic question: what prevents us from reaching this high ideal? What makes us succumb to attachment and aversion? And so what he's saying that is that we all have a conscience, right? So when we do bad things, nobody can say that they don't know it's a bad thing, because we are by nature impelled towards goodness, because the conscience is grounded in the fact that God is the abode of virtue, and his fragments And as fragments, we have an innate attraction for virtue and goodness, which is true, right? All of us have this conscience, and whenever we do anything bad, we feel bad. So the goodness is the nature of the soul, gives the voice of conscience. So all of these bad things like stealing, murdering are sinful activities, and we know them, and yet we commit them as if some force makes us do them. So what is that force? Yeah, okay, so this is a very good question, and we're going to, over the next 43 verses, right? So over the next 7 verses, we are going to hear Bhagwan Shri Krishna's answer to this question. Okay, I wish you all a very wonderful day. Radhe Radhe.